Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today I want to talk for a bit about Jalen Brunson, who is one of the biggest names picked up in free agency this past offseason. He, of course, left the Dallas Mavericks, where he spent the first few years of his career, to join the New York Knicks, and it was no secret he was going to head to the Big Apple. I mean, basically everybody knew that the Knicks were coveting him from like a month left of the season or so. I mean, they even hired his dad to the coaching staff over the course of the offseason, and they did end up getting hit with some tampering charges. I believe it lost them a second-round pick, but overall, the Knicks got their guy, the point guard that they were looking for to run their offense, and it did cost them a lot of money. They gave him a 4-year, $104 million deal, and when I saw this amount of money, I remember thinking to myself, that's a lot for a player that has yet to be an all-star, and, you know, he also played alongside Luka Doncic, so we don't quite know how he's going to look in the spotlight as the main ball handler and the facilitator. We did see some glimpses, for example, against the Utah Jazz in the playoffs last season. He did a great job while Luka was still working his way back from injury, and was a big reason why Dallas was able to get out of that series pretty easily despite not having their superstar point guard. So I felt pretty optimistic, and I even predicted him in my preseason positional rankings to be a borderline all-star, which he is at the moment. But even still, I was a bit concerned about the money, especially in the context of the fact that you would now be paying him, RJ Barrett, and Julius Randle a lot of money, basically capping you out with a big three of guys, none of which are a superstar or seem to be able to become one at any point in the future. Now, I do still have some concerns with that, which I will talk about later in the video, but as for Brunson himself, he has completely proven me wrong, and he has not only played up to the contract that he received, but to be honest, at this point, he's probably being underpaid. Brunson came into the season with a big spotlight on him for a number of reasons. Number one, of course, you're playing in New York, in Madison Square Garden, for a Knicks team that had just had a pretty disappointing season after a really great one the year prior. So a lot of expectations were there for you to kind of help them get back on track. And also, the Knicks have not had a great point guard in like a very, very long time. I looked at some of their past point guards. It is rough. If you go look at the history of guys that they have had leading their offense, it's not a great list of names, or at least some of the guys on there were past their prime by the time they got to the Big Apple. So Jalen Brunson had a lot of expectations to be this next high-level Knicks point guard that they've been looking for a long time. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, he was now outside of the shadow of Luka Doncic. This was his chance to go ahead and prove to everybody that, hey, I'm not a product of playing alongside this other superstar. I can be a lead ball handler and be very effective in doing so, which is exactly what he's done this season. Statistically, Brunson is averaging 23.9 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, 6.2 assists on 59.1 true shooting percentage, which is a bit above league average, and that includes shooting 41% from deep, the highest mark of his career on the highest volume that he's ever had. He's been the engine of the Knicks offense this entire season. Almost everything runs through him when he's on the court, as it should, because when Brunson has the ball in his hands, it's very rare that great things don't happen. Whether he's setting up a teammate, he's going ahead and attacking basically any defender in front of him using a unique combination of skill, speed, footwork, especially because he is a mid-range maestro, and also he's a post-up point guard. There are a lot of times where he will post up defenders much bigger than him, and he'll just fade away right over them, or he'll get them on a pump fake and up and under a floater, whatever. Brunson is a very unique type of player. We very rarely see a post kind of heavy and mid-range heavy point guard in the NBA nowadays. It's kind of similar to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, except Shai is like 6'6", and Brunson is nowhere near that height. He's a smaller guard, but he's still able to make it work, and that's part of why he's been so fun to watch this season, because he's so unique to almost any other player in the NBA. And as I mentioned, this is the first time the Knicks have had a legit high-level playmaker and high-level scorer at the point guard position. They've had a lot of names that have just not done what they needed to, and adding in Brunson completely transforms this team from what, like I mentioned, was a disappointing team last season into one of the more fun squads in the East so far this year. And throughout these stats, the impact that he's made on this squad, Brunson has built up an all-star case, and while he hasn't been selected as an all-star at the time of me making this video, maybe he'll be in as a replacement, because I do think he's very deserving of some consideration if they need to add somebody else to that list. He's also just gotten better and better every single month of the season, and since the calendar turned to 2023, Brunson has been basically unstoppable. Statistically, over that stretch, which is 20 games, he's averaging 29.3 points per game, 5.7 assists, and 4.2 rebounds on a 61.3 true shooting percentage, which overall is just absolutely ridiculous. He's an absolute unstoppable offensive machine. Whether he's setting up teammates, like I mentioned, around 6 assists per game, or scoring near 30 points basically any night he's out there, there's nothing you can really do to slow down Brunson, and this includes some masterful performances like a 40-point game on 71% shooting the day before I'm recording this. He had a 41.5 rebounds, 7 assist game versus the Clippers a couple weeks ago, which is also on absolutely ridiculous shooting. There's no way to stop Brunson at this point. If he can continue to play anything close to this production over the course of the rest of this contract, there's a good chance he will be a multi-time All-Star on this deal, or at least in consideration for a spot every single season like he should be this year. But also, Brunson's contract will go from one that many people, me included, thought might have been an overpay to one of the best value contracts in the entire NBA. I mean, he's just been ridiculous. And another crazy stat that I just saw before recording this video, he's shooting 64% on catch and shoot threes over their past 15 games. So he's playing well on ball, of course, as I mentioned with some of the numbers, but also off ball, you really can't stop him. He's always going to make a positive impact. This includes helping his teammates around him be better. And I think a great example of this is Julius Randle. A couple seasons ago, of course, he was amazing. He made an All-Star game, he was on the All-NBA team, and he won Most Improved Player very, very deservingly because he completely turned the narrative of his career around, going from somebody that was just a solid player to looking like maybe a franchise building block for the Knicks going forward. However, last season, it felt like he kind of fell off a cliff. It suddenly seemed like, oh, maybe that was a fluke because his numbers went down, his efficiency dipped, his body language was bad, and all of a sudden it felt like Knicks fans were really turning on him after loving him the year prior. Now this season, Jalen Brunson comes into the fold, and all of a sudden Julius Randle is right back to the All-Star player that he was a couple seasons ago. I think a lot of this is because Brunson coming into things gives them another playmaker, another scorer that allows Julius Randle to not have to do so much. He doesn't have to be this Swiss Army knife, do everything for your team type of guy. He can kind of, fall back a little bit and give more of the reins to somebody else, allowing them to share the duties a little bit, have Jalen Brunson do a bit more of the playmaking and the ball handling, while Julius Randle focuses on some of the other aspects of his game. And I think it's gone a long way to him not just regaining that form, but in some areas of his game, get a little bit better. In fact, his true shooting percentage is up 1.3% from that season where he was an All-NBA player. So his efficiency is up, his numbers are once again looking really good, he's an All-Star again. I think a lot of that does have to do with the addition of Jalen Brunson. We've also seen RJ Barrett's true shooting percentage go up, although you would like to see it climb a little bit more. Quentin Grimes is having a great season amongst some other players on this Knicks roster. And overall, I think the addition of Jalen Brunson has been so valuable to the team's success that we're seeing right now in Madison Square Garden. Now, I want to flash a bit forward to the future beyond this season, because as good as Jalen Brunson is, and as good as he will continue to be, I'm sure, he isn't going to be the best player on a championship team for you. It's just not going to happen. In this league, you really need a superstar to win a title. And I don't think RJ is going to ever get up to the caliber of player. I don't think Julius Randle is the guy either. But I think with Brunson in particular, you have a great complementary piece that can fit alongside any superstar that you eventually bring in to try and push this team over the top. If you make a trade, say including like RJ Barrett, maybe some of your other young pieces, like an Emmanuel Quickly, a Quentin Grimes, an Obi Toppin, and Mitchell Robinson, just a few of those names, or maybe just some other salary filler, and you throw in a bunch of draft picks because the Knicks do have a ton of capital for the foreseeable future, you could probably bring a superstar into the fold of things. And if you are able to, regardless of who it is, I think Brunson is a perfect fit as a co-star. For example, we've seen him thrive highly in off-ball scenarios, playing alongside Luka for the past few years, where last season they made a Western Conference Finals with him most often as their second best player on any given night. He can do exactly that, so if you bring in a high-level guard, Brunson can make it work. He also can play alongside a forward like a Julius Randle. He can play off-ball or also take over if need be. If Randle needs somebody else to take the reins for a little bit, he can do that as well. So Brunson is able to play off-ball, on-ball, be a co-star, be the star. He's able to do a number of things on basically any given night, and that goes a long way to his fit with any superstar that the Knicks acquire. To me, this is the real appeal of not just having Brunson on this contract now, but having him long-term. Of course, he's playing great basketball. He is an all-star caliber player, even if he doesn't make the team, and he's just 26 years old. He's probably in the thick of the most improved player conversation too. There is so much to like about the way that Brunson is playing. Of course, you're not a championship contender yet, but having a guy like him on a championship contending team is highly, highly valuable. And I think when you eventually bring in that superstar player alongside him and probably a Julius Randle, it's going to be huge. Now, of course, they do have to end up making that trade and making the right decisions, but I have liked the way that the Knicks have continuously built this roster. I like the way that things are going for New York. I think they've been making pretty good decisions, and if they continue to bide their time, if they continue to play good basketball and wait for that superstar to become available, and you're able to pair Brunson alongside whoever that is, as well as say a Julius Randle and role players, you all of a sudden have a really bright future in New York. So overall, I was wrong about Jalen Brunson and his contract. I thought it was a bit of an overpay. I thought he was a bit unproven to give that amount of money, but he's not only played up to the expectations of that contract, but far exceeded them. And while I did think he could be a borderline all-star guard this season, his numbers and his overall impact on his co-stars and the team as a whole has been far beyond what I thought it was going to be in this first season in New York. I'm excited to see the way that he and this team continue to develop, as he has quickly become one of my favorite players in the league to watch, not only because of his clutch time skills or his style of play, but also just because I want to see him succeed. I want to see him continue to grow and be a star point guard in New York, because he bet on himself leaving the shadow of a superstar, and it's worked out great for him as well as the team that picked him up. With all that being said, I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. Go ahead and comment down below. Do you think Jalen Brunson should be an all-star, or how many all-star appearances do you think he will end up with in his career? What do you think his trajectory is? Because he is only 26 years old, even if it feels like he should be a lot older. But for right now, I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.